and welcome to the Root Together podcast, the podcast which aims to root you in Christ through his word together. I'm your host, Charles, and today we are in chapter 37, and we begin the saga of Joseph. So we move away from Jacob and into the new story here, which is Joseph. And we have Jacob living in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan, so he's moved again. And we have some records of Jacob here, and at 17 years of age, we have Joseph, and you remember him. He was firstborn of Rachel. Rachel had two sons, and that would be Joseph and Benjamin. And so because of that, at 17, he was Jacob's favorite. And I want to point out several things as we begin to dig into this. One, there's that brokenness of family again. Jacob and his brother Esau, they had their own problems in the past, and that's going to get passed on to the sons of Jacob as well. They're going to have issues with each other, and particularly Joseph here. And there's favoritism at play. And why is there favoritism? Because he loved Rachel more than Leah, and therefore he loved her son more than his other sons. And Jacob's younger. He's the second to last, Benjamin being the youngest son. And so he's getting all this doting attention at 17 years of age, and the father he just loves him, is giving him gifts. He's kind of a little bit of a tattletale here. And we're not really, there's some debate on Joseph. Is he a pre-Christ-like figure? Meaning, is he set up in this story to be innocent as Jesus was innocent, sold as Jesus was sold? I don't know, because I read this, and as you'll see, you can kind of understand some of the brothers' angst. Because we have at 17 years of age, Joseph tended the sheep with his brothers. The young man was working with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. Again, that's just some of the father's sons. Not Reuben, not Judah, not those, but his father's wives. And he brought a bad report about them to their father. Now, they may have deserved a bad report. We don't know, but he told on them. And so they were not happy with that. And in verse 3, we're told the main problem here is that Israel, or Jacob, loved Joseph more than the other sons, because Joseph was the son born to him in his old age, and really read in there, born to Rachel, who was the one that he loved more than Leah. And he made a long sleeve robe for him. And again, so there's some debate about the robe. Was it a Technicolor robe? That's the cartoon, right? Or a multicolored robe? Well, we don't know. The Hebrew word is unclear. It's likely referring to just a long-sleeved robe, which would have cost a lot of money. It would have been a symbol of status. And it's in a culture where the oldest is supposed to have the status, not the youngest. And so he's second to youngest, and he's getting all the status that really is due to Reuben and the other guys, because he's way down on the totem pole. And so there's some issues there. He's doting on him, and his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all of his brothers, and they hated him and could not bring themselves to speak peacefully to him. So there's just a lot of angst, because one, Joseph, if they're not doing good, he reports on them. And two, because Jacob dotes on Joseph as well. And none of those things really help Joseph in relationship to his brothers. Well, verse 5 adds in a third component to their angst. So not only because he's kind of a truth teller here. He tells it like it is. He believes in the right thing. Hey, I have a bad report about you. I'm going to tell my father. And then, hey, his father loves him. And this third thing is that Joseph also had a dream. He has dreams. And we know this from later on in his story. That becomes important. But he said, listen, I had a dream. And he tells his brothers this. Now, I don't know if he's just being snarky, or if he's just telling it because he had it and he just thought he could tell them. We're not really told the motivation behind it, but he tells them, hey, listen, I had this dream. In verse 7, there we were binding sheaves of grain in the field, and suddenly my sheaf stood up, and your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. In verse 8, they understood what it meant. Like, are you really going to reign over us? Are you going to rule us? And so they hated him even more because of his dream and what he had said. So there's these three components to their hate. And in verse 9, right, he has another dream. It's like, he just can't help himself here. He's like, I had another dream. And this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars, they were all bowing down to me. And the sun, the moon, I guess, would be reference to Jacob and his wives. And the stars, of course, the 11 stars, the brothers. And he told his father and his brothers, and his father even rebuked him. This is actually where Jacob rebukes him. He goes, "What kind of dream is that you had? Am I and your mother and brothers really going to bow down to the ground before you?" And his brothers were again jealous of him, but the father kept the matter in mind, which means he didn't completely forget it. He didn't completely let it go. He kind of thought about, well, maybe. And then 12, they come up with a plan, right? So his brothers had gone to the pasture, their father's flocks at Shechem, so they've gone off to take care of the sheep, the flocks. And Jacob sends Israel to his brothers, thinking, oh, go report on them. Go see, and it says in verse 14, go and see how your brothers and the flocks are doing and bring word back to me. So he's asking him, go and report on them for me. Like if they're not doing good, tell me. If they're not working hard, tell me. Putting his son, I think, at risk here. They already hate him. He has to know the other sons hate him. And yet he's going to send them out to, I guess, because he can get a true word out of them. And so, he says, Joseph goes, but the brothers have hatched a plot. They are angry. They're done with this. And so they've decided we are going to have to kill this guy. And so they make a plan to kill him. And so they say to one another when they see him, and this is a little bit of some irony and foreshadowing here. Oh, look, in verse 19, here comes that dream expert. Now, there's some irony in that statement. Now, did they really say that? I don't know. Or if Moses is putting that in as sort of like a creative foreshadowing, because as you know, Joseph's whole stories are centered around dreams and saving Egypt and the rest of the area because of his dreams. So there's some irony in that statement. Oh, look, here comes the dream expert. Well, quite yes, he is. And so now, come on, let's kill him and throw him into the pits, and we can say that a vicious animal ate him. So their plan is to kill him and blame it on an animal. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. Oh, yes, we will. We will see what becomes of these dreams. As we see, their plot is to hurt Joseph, to kill him. Now, we'll see that they don't kill him. But ironically, if you follow the story, as we will see, his dreams absolutely do come true, and they do bow down before him, including Jacob. So this is an important statement. Don't miss this. Oh, here comes the dream expert. Oh, yes, indeed, he is. And that's being foreshadowed of what's coming into this story. And then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. Oh, yes, we will. So as you hear that, as you know that story, if you've ever read Genesis before, you should kind of have your head tingling, going, oh, but he is the dream expert, and they will actually bow down. That dream will be fulfilled. And the irony of them saying, oh, then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. It's not. Don't let that be lost on you. That's a big moment in this story. But Reuben, who before had led the slaughter of a whole city, also said to them, hey, let's not shed any more blood. Let's throw him into a pit. Let's not lay a hand on him, intending to rescue him from them. So his plan is actually, I'm gonna rescue him. Now, I don't know if his motives were pure. I'll rescue him, and then I'll return him to Father, and then I'll become Father's favorite as well. I don't know if that's what he's thinking, or if he's just thinking, I really don't want to let these guys kill our brother. I mean, after all, he is our brother. We might not like him, but he's blood. And so he makes a plan to rescue him. And so they throw him into the pit. Reuben goes off. He's going to come back to rescue him. But then they kind of go, hey, let's sell him. And they do. They sell him to the Ishmaelites. And again, that word shouldn't be lost on us. That's the children of Ishmael. God has blessed them. They're now moving through to Egypt. And they sell Joseph to the Ishmaelites. In verse 26, Judah, and that's a name that we should know, said to his brothers, what do we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? I mean, come on. Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, not lay a hand on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers agreed. And so when the Midianite traders passed by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the pit, and for 20 pieces of silver, they sold him to the Ishmaelites, and Joseph was taken to Egypt. Again, Jesus sold for 30 pieces of silver, Joseph for 20. There may be a connection there, but there may not be. But just an interesting note. Now Reuben returns, and of course he sees Joseph gone, and he panics because he really was trying to rescue Joseph. And he's like, what am I going to do? Well, they take the robe to his father, and he says, we found this. Is it your son or not? It is. Jacob is, or Israel here, is broken. and he mourns for many, many days. In fact, he cannot be comforted. And we end this story with Jacob in mourning, and his father wept for him for a long time. In verse 36, meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph to Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guards. And that we'll come back to that in a little bit in the next couple of chapters. So Jacob is mourning. Joseph is in the care of Potiphar as a slave. You know, what we see so often in chapters like 37 is this theme, and this is a theme throughout Genesis, is a theme throughout the whole Bible, that what people mean for evil, God will mean for good. And of course, that's at the end of Joseph's story. But that's important to mention, even in verse 37, their desire was to kill him, to hurt him, to remove him from the picture. And yet all these dreams that God had put in his head, all those things would come true because God would make it so. That even though their plan was to hurt him, God uses that brokenness, uses that anger and that hatred to actually redeem it through saving them and saving many, many others, because Joseph gets put in a place where he can store food for a lot of people and save a lot of people. You see, this is the thing with God. What often the world means for evil, God means for good. When Judas betrayed Jesus, he did it for his own personal gain. When the Pharisees saw Jesus betrayed, they were like, yes, we got it, we won. And then when they killed him, they thought it was finished. Oh, it was finished, but the wrong way. The payment for sin was finished. And when Jesus walked out of the tomb, then his work of salvation had only just begun, because Jesus walked out of the tomb, forever ending the reign of sin and death. So what the evil, Pharisees in that story meant for bad, to kill Jesus, God redeemed it for glory. And God does that so often in our lives. What the world means to do to hurt us, those broken things, those sufferings that we go through, they're not easy. They're hard. They hurt. There's evil intent behind it, but God redeems them for his glory and his good. Hold on. Thank you for joining me in chapter 37. I look forward to joining you in chapter 38 next time. I'll see you there.